bug.
Yes,
All right, all right.
Okay.
All right, so
She left.
due to technical difficulty, we haven't been able to broadcast this meeting, and Colleen was doing a presentation, so we would like to give her the opportunity to summarize what she's been talking.
2-minute recap.
2-minute recap.
Okay. Hi, I'm Colleen Henn from Surfrider Foundation's Eastern Long Island chapter. And as many of you know, we do a dozen beach cleanups or more every single year. This year alone, we've collected over 4,400 pounds of debris from our beaches. And I'm here to speak about a topic that was actually brought up last week, which is balloon pollution. So we're going to focus on a specific item that we find on the beach very frequently. So we have done 15 beach cleanups at East Hampton town beaches, and at those cleanups we found 220 balloons, averaging over 14 balloons per East Hampton town beach, according to our results. And this is problematic for a number of reasons. Of course, it impacts wildlife, so wildlife can get entangled in balloon strings, and also in the, they can ingest the balloons themselves. And also in 2017, on 4th of July weekend, a Mylar balloon hit a transformer in Southampton town, and the transformer exploded, leaving over 1,000 homes and businesses out of power for one of the busiest weekends of the year. So it not only affects wildlife, but they affect our livelihood as well. So what can we do? Current Suffolk County law states that an individual can release 25 balloons per 24-hour period. So all of us could go outside right now and release 25 balloons per person and then do it again tomorrow evening. That's problematic for us and for a lot of the country. So there has been somewhat of a movement in coastal areas. Block Island, our neighbor, banned balloons entirely, so it's actually illegal to sell balloons on Block Island. And I wanted to focus on specifically a movement within New Jersey, which is banning the intentional release of balloons. So what that means is it doesn't necessarily point a finger at a kid that releases a balloon on his birthday by accident into the air, but rather a ceremonial release of balloons. So I was hoping to get the trustees or East Hampton Town or Suffolk County's support on banning the intentional release of balloons and potentially even making that a stronger piece of legislation. Thank you.
And I believe we agreed to discuss this over the next couple of weeks and decide how we can help Colleen with this effort, correct?
Terrific.
Correct, sounds good.
Thank you so much, Colleen, for coming.
Thank you. See you in
Thank
2
you.
weeks.
Okay, looks like the audience is empty, so we'll move on to new business. Beaches. We had spoken earlier this year about resetting the beach driving permit numbers, and it went back to the town clerk, and what she and the town board are proposing is a regularly scheduled reset every 5 years. I think it would just go into the code and happen automatically. So they were asking our support on that. Does anybody have any reason to? Anybody want to discuss it, or
Is this just beach driving?
just the beach driving permit?
And currently it is for,
We're going to reissue the new permits
Every
Right.
5
every
years?
5 years.
They're not going to be charged, nothing's
No
gonna
charge,
change.
no charges. Nothing's going to change except the reset.
okay.
Have any user groups or members of the public been notified of this proposal prior to this evening?
I don't know if the town board has
Do we
notified anybody.
want to possibly just leave this open for 2 weeks in case CFAR or any other groups want to speak about it with us on the record before we make a formal position?
That's fine.
You know
With me, I don't know.
if there'll be any public hearing by the town board on this?
I haven't heard of one.
I know
I mean,
this was,
all they're doing is resetting the numbers.
Yeah.
Nothing's changing.
Yeah.
I
except
mean,
that.
personally, I'm in favor of it, but I would like to just
Well, I'm
offer.
just saying, I don't know that, that
2
would
weeks
be
is not gonna
cause
make
for a
any
hearing.
difference,
Right.
that's for sure.
No, I just.
But this was discussed quite extensively.
It was, we did hear
Yeah.
from, I think,
Yeah,
CFAR and a
we
few
went-
others
We heard from
previously.
everybody, but 2 weeks is not gonna really make any difference.
So-
Anybody wants to speak up?
Yeah, so
Currently, the
just-
beach permit is for how long?
It's on,
Just
It's
it's
on
forever.
forever.
It's forever.
Right, and then
And
there was a
what's
discussion, I
happened is
remember a
the
while ago,
numbers
people
are
would sell their
now-
cars and then they would come back.
Yeah.
I think the
From
numbers
South.
are now approaching 40,000
And well,
stickers have been
It became an
issued.
issue in the Napeag lawsuit, where the homeowners were claiming there were 40,000 cars using the beaches.
Mhm.
So this will put the quash on that.
Right, I remember that. Okay. Well then,
Give it 2 weeks and. we
yes,
can-
I think so, and I think that's a good idea if CFAR or
Okay.
other concerned people want to
Yeah,
speak to the
I think it's
issue.
fair to let people weigh in.
Mhm.
Okay. Roads, Crooked Highway, permission to pave?
Yes, we did hear from the web construction company, Lease Hampton, and they were approached by a group of homeowners on Crooked Highway that take access off Bull Path. And it's actually a combination of private driveways and a piece of Crooked Highway. Jim and I were down there with Rick Whalen 2 years ago, and the driveways were very poorly planned. There's been a lot of erosion and damage to the local environment. So my feedback to the office manager was to make sure that everyone had all their paperwork in order, their trustee easements for access rights, and see if they want to put together some type of a site plan that actually made sense for the area, maybe combining all those 4 driveways into one with drainage and, you know, some form
Yeah.
of buffer there. It's a tricky area, and it wasn't planned out right.
Well, it
So-
wasn't, but you know, the easements that were issued there, were they the typical easements that basically put the maintenance of these, what really were unimproved roads on the
Property owners,
property owners?
correct.
You know,
So it
the
would be a
trouble-
private project
the
if it
trouble
were
that
to,
you-
if it were to go to a head.
The trouble that you get into with this stuff is when you do you know, it's nice to go and do the drainage, do the paving, and do all of that stuff, okay? But you know what the next step here is? What?
Maintenance?
No, we want that road taken into the town highway system because we want our road plowed. We made all of these investments in paving and dry wells and all this other stuff. And there's one big critical impediment to that is, one, we the trustees are in a position at that point, do we give the property to the town of East Hampton? And if we do that, those roads will have to be constructed to New York State DOT codes, which means a 24-foot wide paved surface, drainage sized by an engineer and installed properly. And we've had this issue, this isn't the first time, we've had this issue come up, not specifically with trustee roads, but with urban renewal map roads that connect via a trustee road. And this was the dilemma. Steve Lynch can't take those roads into the highway system. And the question is, do we, as the trustees, want to give up that road at the
This,
end of
this
things?
area, Jim, if you'll recall, is a relatively small section of Trustee Road.
Yeah,
Because from Bull Path down the hill, I believe, was
Yep.
private. Then on that corner, it was trustee, and then the roadbed actually went up into the
yeah,
undeveloped,
this is the one where the guy had basically
overcleared and,
clear cut his lot and then,
yes, and clear cut the trustee lot and had to be revegetated.
There's,
So it's a tricky,
It is.
tricky spot, and I don't know that this would ever qualify for DOT standard based on the private slash trustee slash,
because I think before you said yes to that, you'd very much want to have something that insulates future boards
oh yeah, no, it's a tricky
To,
ask,
uh,
for sure.
to come back to us.
I know this road very well as a broker. I've been back here, and I live not far from it. I know this area very well, and I almost feel it would be a shame to pave into the woods that way.
Yeah.
Now,
Well, right now you
Well, I
have
think
four,
I
you have 4 dirt driveways that don't work.
okay,
that are side by side, it doesn't make any
Yeah.
sense
I mean, it
whatsoever.
Well, yeah, if they're
It
all,
would-
so four, okay.
You've created 4 washout roads, basically.
Because
Yeah.
Crooked Highway is one road that goes back, and then there are driveways off,
No.
Well,
what
this is
happens
driveways first.
okay.
Does this road hook into the bike path at all? It does.
That's the spot.
So-
The
so-
bike path goes right alongside of it.
Alongside of it, or it is it?
It's alongside of it.
Okay.
And then the issue that Jim says, do we want to relinquish the trustee road?
I'm a little lost.
I don't think you'd have to relinquish it, but,
By
know,
doing
it's-
this, Jim, by doing this, would it help
Not
the
yet.
ambulance
All I have is
and the
that.
fire
They're-
department?
that's why I asked the,
Yeah, yeah, definitely. You know, it's trouble. This is, it's not just trustee roads. When you get over in Northwest Woods, you have a lot of those flag lots. Okay, they're long, they're narrow. Everybody has that deeded 20-foot wide access.
Yes.
And unfortunately, even when these lots were developed together, everybody ultimately decided, I'm just gonna run my own driveway down, rather than like come up with some sort of equitable deal where somebody created a singular driveway that meandered through. Instead, you have these 20-foot wide channels, which then, you know, somebody like plants the hedge on either side, and it's,
It's like passing road area.
yeah,
You've
it
got
doesn't
these
really, it
one,
doesn't really work. And I think, does Crooked Highway connect out to Bull Path there?
not there,
No,
not
it
there,
doesn't.
no.
You don't pick it up until you get to the bottom of the hill.
That's right.
Well, you know what?
It's a small section.
Maybe it doesn't necessarily even involve us, because the big issue on the washouts here, as I recall, are the common driveways
Oh, yeah.
that are
That's the,
shared side by side.
That's a
If you had
disaster.
somebody, this is something that probably could be settled civilly between the neighbors and leave Crooked Highway alone, because by the time you hit Crooked Highway, you're at the bottom of the hill.
yep. Yeah, you could just do.
Susan, you have a
some gra-
survey of
gravel,
it, the
maybe
tax map?
improved gravel or
Could you pass
something
that
down there.
around for us?
But it wouldn't affect access, I don't
Thank you.
believe, to most of Crooked Highway,
No,
so. But, you know, they're a ways away from really approaching us formally. They were trying to get a feel for, you know, where we stood on it, and they've got quite a bit of homework to even approach us in a professional manner, so.
Correct me if I'm wrong, but I thought that our easements generally allow them to do some improvements of the roads, such as gravel, something like that. Right, regrading and gravel. Right. As opposed to,
They would have to come before the trustee board.
right, but as opposed to paving, I think that
So
might be easier
Might
to
be too much.
consider.
Yeah.
what part of the road here are we speaking of? Because from Bull Path, Crooked Highway goes back,
This-
there's a
this
residence
is
right
the
here
area
to
we're
the
talking
left.
about here. This is the area, Susan, where there's actually
Oh, it's-
4 driveways coming down,
Yes, uh-huh,
and then Crooked Highway helps gain access to these lots here.
right.
So these lots, this is all private driveway from Bull Path all the way down to Crooked Highway. This is their main area of concern.
So
That's-
why
that's
would we
already
have
their
a say
property.
on that?
Well, I think it's these homeowners that are part of the request. These are the homeowners that are concerned that they won't have ambulance service and fire department service, because this is a washout, very poorly planned area,
No,
as Jim pointed out.
But if, are they talking about actually paving Crooked Highway itself also?
Well, that little section that the roads go over, they would have to get our permission, because although it's a small piece, it is the piece that connects the downward slope to the flat roadbed that the
Okay.
4 lots take access from, where we walked with Rick along the trustee. Roadbed.
So I understand this, they want to pave this entire
No, they
section?
want to
Just a
pave,
section,
they want
where
to
the 4
pave
driveways are?
this section right there,
Just that section,
right. Because then they have private road access again. They have flag lot access there.
okay.
So it's a relatively small piece. It's like a square,
Oh.
like a 20 by 20 square
Okay.
that the feeder driveways cross over to get to the other feeder driveways on the other side
So
of
if,
the road
if
then.
we did give this up to the DOT or our town, that little
You
square,
wouldn't have to give it up,
No,
you'd
you
have to
wouldn't.
give permission.
permission for it, but how would that affect us in the, ultimately, years down the line?
I'm not sure. It's such a small
Trustees.
piece, it might not.
Would that
But
ever
we'd have to
cause
see.
a breakup between having no access? I mean, would we,
Something short of paving solve
Yeah,
that problem?
yeah, you could do gravel down there. I think they were looking to do paving on the downward slope
That's
with
trustee
drainage. No, it's all private.
So what do we have to do with that?
Ultimately, if they are gonna create a fully paved access to these other homes, they do cross and would have to pave a piece of a trustee road.
You
So we
know,
would be
it's
part of the
both sides.
discussion.
Right.
so none of
Yeah,
these
well,
properties,
My question was, why do they have to pave that piece of trustee road, or would
I guess-
something less than that?
I guess you could leave that gravel if you wanted to have a 20 by 20 gravel tarmac and then have pavement on both sides of it, I guess you could.
it's these
they-
properties that are concerned, because these access where the 4 driveways are from
Kind of like a
Bull Path.
driveway going
Right, but I
across
think
the
they're all
sidewalk.
working together.
Okay,
I don't know who the homeowner
because these are the,
association
these are the
is.
folks that look as though they're
They're
access
most
only.
impacted. They're most
sorry?
impacted.
The trustee road is the sidewalk?
Yes.
mm, I'm not in favor of necessarily, you know,
So it's just
releasing,
that little-
Washing it.
excuse me, of releasing ownership for the sake of doing that, but as I had asked Jim, would it make it easier for EMS, fire department, ambulance, if we were to cooperate with this small section? If that is in fact the case, along with some other research, I would, you know, at first blush, be in favor of it.
Well,
This
my-
is
well,
not,
my-
you know,
My question before I went that far
Yeah.
would be, is the trustee part of the road, if you will, or the driveway? And would it be in danger of washing out if it was gravelled? And if by being gravelled, we would avoid the whole issue of having to worry about whether it's paved up to town standards, if some.
Well, it's only if
time
they're,
down the
it's
road,
only if
blah,
there's
blah.
somebody who's looking to try and adopt this into the road system. They're not gonna adopt common driveways into the
No.
road
Yeah.
system.
That's not
Yeah.
gonna
This,
happen.
this is a very unique situation.
Yeah.
My concern would be how the edges of that would be maintained.
If you're gonna do it, you should pave the whole thing, or you're gonna wind up paving,
They,
gravel.
they need a lot of site work
Yeah,
planning there.
yeah.
It's a
Okay.
very poorly laid out situation right now that's caused a lot of erosion and a lot of
Yeah.
environmental damage.
I
Where's the
appreciate you
erosion-
guys bringing it to our attention, and I
Where is
would,
the erosion taking
look
place? On
Down the face of the
driveways?
hill,
And those are the driveways?
yeah, the 4 driveways that are side by side, like 4
There's
ribbons.
all runoff from
It's
it.
all runoff.
Erosion's coming down.
And then it's running off the roads, it's undermining the root systems of some very old, mature pine trees that are now dying.
Huh.
And the neighbor that clear-cut his lot didn't help matters any, further causing other issues.
Is there revegetation that's needed on that particular property?
It's
of the
been
person?
done, but
Not good
it's
enough.
hard to replace 100-foot pine trees
Yeah.
with
mhm.
Shrubs,
15-foot
right.
ornamental trees.
It sounds like we're in favor of the process going forward.
Could be an improvement to the
Yeah,
environment there.
yeah,
Well, they're gonna have to submit a real plan.
okay.
This goes, yeah, this goes well
Yeah.
beyond just the
Yeah.
trustee
An
board.
engineered
Yeah,
plan,
they need a
and
Drew
then we
Bennett
can
type person
take
or
a look at
somebody
that.
really.
I'd like to see some pictures,
Yeah.
personally.
I mean, if you want to go over there,
Yeah,
it's,
let's
you
go.
know,
Take a ride.
Susan and I are nearby, we'd be happy to show it
Mhm.
to you, John. Susan's been over there, she's walked that road bed
Yeah,
from up, further
Dill
up,
and I,
down.
yeah, walked the whole, pretty much the whole
Yeah.
length of it.
It's a very pretty area.
Yeah, we're over there in the trails a lot.
So,
Cool.
keep you posted if we get any further correspondence. But as it was left, the web building company was gonna revisit the neighbors and see how sincere the interest was and what type of a project they might wanna consider, and they were gonna keep us posted.
Cool,
All right,
Good,
Okay?
thank you.
thank you.
move on to committee reports, aquaculture,
Thank you, Susan.
the Suffolk County Shellfish Aquaculture Lease Program review.
Oh, I just, Arlene made copies of communication that all the members got, which summarized the meeting that we had a couple of weeks ago. And So you can look over this, it's basically the main points that were covered, but the reason I wanted it on the agenda was, the last page is a list of marine, yacht clubs, marinas, boat trade, other recreational users that the program is reaching out to make aware of the process. And they, in the email, they ask for any additional, additional suggestions, if anyone has them, for inclusion in this list. And I know we discussed this last week. Susan and Rick had mentioned, some groups or users that have feelings about this thing, so maybe I wanted the board members to look over this list, and if there are other groups of users that you feel should be included, you could send me an email as to who they are and what their contact information is, and then I'll pass that on to the review committee people.
Can I ask you a question? You reference here meeting number 1. Is there a proposed series of meetings or a certain number of meetings that are to be a part of this process?
Yes, this process will take, I'm not sure exactly how long, but at least a year.
So you,
The next meeting is scheduled for March sometime.
And are we stakeholders?
Not directly.
No, I didn't think so.
The town has a representative. There are user groups on this list from East Hampton. There are user groups on other lists, fishing interests that are represented, or that are being contacted with information as to the process and updates and things like that. I was also going to suggest to, and I have talked to people from the county, and I will also include in my email suggesting, other user groups that might be contacted, that the East Hampton Fishing Advisory Committee be included in the list of fishing interests, which they're not. The Baymen's Association is, but I don't know. I think the Baymen's Association is pretty much morphed into the Fisheries Advisory Committee now, so I just want to make sure they get.
John, how does someone get to attend the meetings or submit comment? Is there a protocol?
Anyone can attend the meeting.
Okay, so you'll announce it so the public can be aware of it and you
Yeah,
get
sure.
information on it?
The next.
Yeah, so I know a few groups that would probably like to participate at some level.
Well, to that point, I think I mentioned last time that, an engineering firm, Cash and Associates, has the contract to basically put the review together, do all the nuts and bolts of it. And what they're embarking on now is what they're calling public outreach. I sent an email today to Greg Green of Cash and Associates, who's sort of the lead person on this, and asked him if he thought it might be in everyone's interest for the trustees to sponsor sort of a special meeting or part of a meeting where they could make a presentation on the 10-year review, and we could publicize it, and members of the East Hampton community, various interests, come to the meeting and weigh in on their feelings.
So make it closer to home, is that the idea?
Yeah. I think we briefly discussed this last time.
So would that be in addition to the March meeting or in place?
Yeah, that would be ideally sometime before the March meeting,
Okay.
so that Cashin would be able to bring back the feedback directly from East Hampton, in East Hampton, to the meeting.
Would you want to do that at a public meeting or at another meeting?
Well, I'd see it either as, part of a regular meeting, might be a long meeting,
Right.
depending on how many people showed up, or setting up a special meeting, kind of like you did for the deep
Yeah,
water.
well, that'd be fine. Yes, I think we could do that. Yeah, we touched on that a little bit last time.
Are these are they all floating
Well, what
farming?
What they use mostly now are these cages that float or sink. They have floats on them, and you can take corks out of them, fill them with water, and they'll sink. So usually they'll use them as floating gear during the growing season, and then sink them in the winter.
And they're oysters, John?
This is all oysters, yeah.
Nice.
I mean, the program is for more than oysters, but everybody's growing oysters.
Yeah.
So, do you want it maybe by the next meeting? You want to pick a date and set up a special meeting?
I'll see what he says.
Yeah, he's
Yeah.
waiting for a
I haven't
response.
gotten
Okay.
heard back from him.
I have a question about single homeowners putting these, the oyster
Float racks?
floats at the end of their dock, because I have to look up something. And I know that the DEC would be the agency that would have issued the permit for that. Is that correct? If I
Are they
call
doing
the DEC?
floats or just hanging them?
Floats.
They issue this permit, we talked about this last time too a little bit, this is called a license to collect or possess. And the DEC issues that permit, and it's all funneled through the oyster gardening program.
Okay.
And we are going to be developing some kind of a permit application for people that are getting the license to collect and permit from the state, so that we're
In the
process
loop.
as well.
All
Yeah,
right,
I
so in terms of, for my particular situation, I actually want to find out if somebody has a permit for their float at their dock.
Well, I have the
In our-
information on who has permits.
You do,
from the
okay, so I will talk to you later then.
Yeah.
Okay,
And then,
thank you.
I think it would be fair to set a goal for next year to try and get our permit in place, so that for 2019, these DEC permit holders would also approach the trustees
Definitely.
and get our documentation in order.
But if we're not a stakeholder, if they're not being
No,
grown,
This is
different.
separate. Susan brought up a new
Yeah.
topic,
We
which is
jumped into
Oh,
town
oh,
waters.
okay.
all of a
into
sudden.
town waters. People are now collecting oysters and swimming them in bags
Got
off
it.
their docks. And they have
Inside
gotten
the harbors.
inside the
Yeah.
harbors.
is there quick last question, is there a portion of the harvest that these folks do that go back into local waters
Yes,
as a,
I'm not sure what it is, but
Okay,
it's
good.
a portion of they grow their oysters, and a portion of what they grow is given back to the hatchery to seed into public ground.
okay, that sounds good.
That's the
garden-
county program?
That's the gardening program.
The town
oyster-
gardening
town
program.
oyster
But the town one, yeah, but not the county program.
No, the county is a private
For profit.
commercial
That's for profit.
growing program
Right.
in state waters.
And what are these restraints and limitations that these growers are referring to? The restrictions are gonna make it difficult for them to succeed. What are they referring to there?
You know, if I'm thinking of the same thing that this refers to, I think I am. I didn't quite understand that either. Somebody brought that up from the representative of the oyster growers, the Long Island oyster growers. And I went up to him after the meeting and asked him what he meant by that. And basically what he meant, I think, was town programs like the East Hampton Town Shellfish Hatchery, putting oysters out on public grounds, and then people coming and harvesting the oysters are kind of limiting the economics, driving the price down, if you will.
Of the commercial aquaculture process?
For a commercial grower.
I thought it would be the exact opposite.
Boo-hoo for them.
Well, they don't have any, his point was, you know, if somebody can come and pick them up for free. The town's growing them, the town puts them out, somebody comes
The town's
along
been
and
doing that
picks
for
them up.
years.
I know.
Okay.
Well,
Many
not
years.
just this town, other
Right.
towns too.
Yeah,
But the person that harvests it and sells it has no overhead. So he may be, yes, he's getting 60 cents for an oyster or 70 cents for an oyster. The grower's getting 70 cents for an oyster, but the grower has all this overhead and the wild
By
harvester.
choosing, by choosing as an
yeah.
entrepreneur.
Yeah.
I mean, I don't think the argument's going anywhere.
I would think
I hope
not.
Okay. Very good. Thanks, John.
All right. Press release regarding the mosquito larvae survey.
I made copies for everyone, but I think I was speaking to Bill and to John prior to the meeting. I sent them the press release that I drafted, just a quick run, and we're going to, Bill is going to add something, and John, and so then we'll reconfigure and I'll bring it back out. I'd like to get it out to the media by next Monday for the papers. The press release is, free advertising, if you will, and as long as we're on LTV this evening, we are looking for, the town trustees are seeking applications for people who are interested to join a cooperative effort that includes Suffolk County Vector Control, the town of East Hampton, and the Nature Conservancy for a third year of mosquito larvae sampling in the 190 acres of marshland that surround Aquaculture Harbor. And we had a very successful season last year with getting people who were interested, and I'm hoping that we have the same. So until next week, when we have a final draft of this that everybody is happy with, I'll give it to you then, and that's it. But if anybody is interested now, you can contact me at my email, and with a bio and your name and background, and we'll put it in our file to consider. But the program is from June through August. It might even go through September. We're not certain. So in the past, we've had college students, marine biology students, and people who've graduated and who are interested in this. And we did compensate as trustees for those individuals who met every Monday. And I think we might this time have Monday and a Thursday. It looked as though the plan from Vector.
I think Vector said there might be 2 weeks
Where
in
you
that range, that it might have to be an adjustment from a Monday sampling
To a Thursday.
sampling later in the week
Right.
due to tides.
And we also might have to go into September. So we don't really know how many people at this juncture. If we're going to go longer, we might need more people than we had last year, simply because I think 3 of the participants were college students who did return in August toward the end, so we were shorthanded a little bit. But we'll readdress it when we come back with the new press release.
I think the press release, we, get it together and put our suggestions into Susan. She drafts the final form. I think it could just be sent out to the trustees by email, and then if everybody's satisfied with it, Susan needs to get it out by Monday. So.
Now, because this is a press release, and it's not going to cost anything to do this, if need be, the ads, I did send out by email an ad for the Star. It's a nominal fee. I think it's $150, $190 for a 4x6 ad. So if we do get to that, and I'll bring it up again, I would hope that we could place an ad to
Maybe in the springtime, maybe a
solicit.
little closer.
Like winter, I'm thinking,
Yeah, I think
because it took me 3 months last year to assemble.
We
From
talked about
January through March, April,
We talked about getting this push of information out there to the public around the Christmas break season, because there very well may be students who
Back home.
are at college now and are coming home around Christmas.
But you may not be able to use students.
Well,
College students.
College students, and you have to be 18 minimum age and be able to drive.
I mean,
a
do you want
vehicle.
to summarize what we're looking for? It's going to be people for a day or 2 a week for a stipend?
Well, it's a
Last
day-
year was
it's a-
just one day,
It's a
Monday.
half a day.
Yeah, I mean,
Yeah,
well, half-
From 7
yeah.
in the morning until probably noon, 12:30.
And the schedule would be, this year was every Monday.
Yes.
But every Monday is what we're looking at again, with the possible addition of Thursdays.
Yes. Only for a couple of weeks, though, I think, based on the tide.
Yeah, there's
think,
really only
um,
2 weeks in the whole June, July, and August period
The tides just
that
don't lend
might
themselves to
not
doing it,
lend
yeah.
themselves to a Monday sampling and might lend themselves more to a Wednesday. So it wouldn't be an addition to, it would be a substitute.
Either or.
So we're looking for like
situation.
3 or 4 people that want to work 1 or 2 days a week.
Yeah, we
doing
had,
environmental
well, we
work.
had two from, we had one person from Nature Conservancy, another person from the, your department, you know, special Department of East Hampton Natural Resources, and then we had myself and John, and 3 or 4
Well,
participants.
the ideal
From the
number is 9 people, I think. It's 3 people, there's 3 sectors that we broke up into.
3 people in each
Three
sector.
people in each sector. We can lose a person in a week and do it with 2. So 6 is absolute bare bones minimum that we need altogether. 9 would be ideal, and we don't want to bump it up too high.
No.
But, if we get 9 or 10 people, and then that might include 3 or 4 town people, Susan and I from the trustees, maybe another 1 or 2 people from planning and natural resources, and then the rest would have to be filled in by,
People that we get from the press release.
Very good.
Okay,
All right?
move on to education, community outreach.
I think we're scheduled, or pretty close to being scheduled to visit one of the schools, right?
Well, we're putting off until after the new year, the
Right.
high school, and, what was the other school?
Springs, was
And Springs School, yes, because it's too tight, there's so much going on for the holidays, so we're gonna move those schools, which works out best for them as well, and then follow up with Montauk and Pearson, Montauk High School and Pearson.
Montauk
Spread the
does-
word.
Montauk doesn't have a high school.
I'm sorry, no, but they have the elementary school. Yeah, so we're gonna go to the elementary school.
Catholic school in Montauk?
No,
No?
just the preschool.
Okay,
So,
that it?
that's it for education,
And-
yes,
and-
unless you wanna see the balloon
And we spoke about
presentation
the
again.
balloons, so we'll skip over that. Georgica, 25 Cove Hollow Road, Robot LLC.
We tabled that last month somewhat indefinitely until they can get the violation issues with the scenic easement sorted. There's no
Okay.
reason to move on this.
All right,
Do we need to keep it on the agenda then, Jim, at this time?
We don't. I mean, hopefully there'll be some movement here.
Yep, yep.
I'm gonna give Billy Hayjack a call and get some feedback from him on their feelings.
all right. 3 Mile Harbor, Treehouse Advancement, 20 Hedges Banks Lane. You know that one?
I think John's gonna do
Yeah,
something.
I've
Okay.
got a bird
Presentation
some
here?
pictures here. We, Billy Ajak was here last week. We talked about this. I just took some pictures of it. I didn't have pictures last time, but bear with me here. This is 20 Hedges Banks Road is west of the end of Old House Landing. So I just wanted a sort of Old House Landing Road, which is the road that you take to Sammy's Beach Road,
So you're east of Cedar Point.
east of Cedar Point, right. This is the end of Old House Landing Road, looking east towards 3 Mile Harbor. I just wanted to give you an idea of the terrain here, so you can see. This, that's looking west from Old House, the end of Old House Landing Road. This, where this little turret is 20 Hedges Banks Road. That's the target here. But I kind of on the way, just wanted to sort of show, another topic of discussion, which is next, is, you know, stairways on the beach at Hedges Banks, and how far out on the beach they are. So I kind of wanted to just paint that picture at the same time here. This is getting closer to the target, 20 Hedges Banks, and you can see there are stairways. You see they're, you know, out onto the beach somewhat. That's just some snow fencing I took a picture of, which doesn't look like it's capturing a lot of sand. I'm not sure how new that snow fencing is, but so this is just before 20 Hedges Banks Road. This is the turret. The reason I took this picture is just, it's not a very good picture, but the neighbor to the east has done some beach grass planting up there, which is right there.
It's huge.
And that was supposed to be a better picture of it, but the sun got in the way.
Is that where the angel showed up?
No, that was just the wrong time of day. So this is 20 Hedges Banks has an existing, if you recall from last week, has an existing staircase that zigzags down the bluff that's proposed to be removed, and a new stairway built basically just sort of on the easterly edge of where this old staircase was. And I had raised the point that this project sort of cried out for, I thought it cried out for bluff revegetation at the same time this stairway work was done. And this is basically what I was talking about, what I had seen, is this bare
You can see the
part.
runoff gouges in the
Yeah,
hillside
the
down here.
erosion down
The
there.
erosion is pretty clear.
So again, that's the portion that's barest. This is the property line, basically. This property to the west is revegetated. This property to the west is owned by the same people that own 20
Oh,
Hedges Banks
interesting,
Road.
wow.
That's all
They're
vegetation?
They're building a new house there, and I believe this might have been done by the previous owner, but it's not that old, actually.
John, at the bottom of the area that has no vegetation or very little, is that revetment there or rocks that, I can't
That's
tell.
that's just.
That's just one rock, but
Relation.
to the west, or to the east?
That,
Wood?
Yeah, I can't really
those
make
are
that
like
out.
little seats that have been built
Oh,
there.
okay, all right.
They're pretty old, I think they've been there for a while. That's looking farther down the beach. And there are more staircases there. I'll just do this. You can see there are more staircases there, and they're getting even farther out onto the beach. It seems as though the bluff is eroded more here.
Is that low tide, John?
Yeah, it's pretty low
Big.
tide, yeah. So this is the existing staircase that's to be removed. That bare area is over here. It seemed to me that, and Billy had mentioned last week that he felt there was, you know, woody vegetation on the bluff, and there is in this area. It seemed to me that the staircase may have been
Help stabilize.
blocking some, you know, winds or.
Why do they want to remove this staircase? Do you
That was
recall?
my question too. In disrepair?
Well, it's old. It's been bolstered up, and we walked down there. Didn't seem that bad to
Are
me.
they going to replace the stairway in the same area or move it?
No,
A
what they're
new
gonna do
house?
is, let's see
I think
if I
it's
have a
gonna be
better
a straight
shot of
line.
it. I don't
Straight
think
line,
it-
is that,
Yeah.
and then with something at the end to lift up?
No, it's going to be
Oh, it
Zigzag,
is?
yeah.
okay.
What they're gonna do is, they're gonna remove this, and from the top of the bluff, they're gonna direct the staircase more or less straight down the bluff. Right now, it makes a turn, comes back, makes a zigzag. Planning, I think, I'm not sure who asked to do what, but I think that the owner wanted to rebuild the staircase. And I think planning wanted them to build something that was, you know, more in conformity with the rest of the staircases, which aren't really zigzaggy, and they kind of come straight down the bluff. So the plan was to remove this and build another one.
Okay. When an old stairway like this is removed, how does that affect the bluff in its natural state? Does it start to disrupt it?
Well, that's what I thought, but.
You know, it just seems,
The recommendation here may be just to cut those pilings off at grade and leave it alone.
leave them alone? Okay.
You know, because the problem is, if you go to take all of those posts out, you'll probably do more damage doing that.
That's exactly my
than-
thought. Then you'll
than
have
it will be to just,
disruption of the dune,
you know, leave the post below grade.
the bluff.
Billy did mention last week that revegetation of the area of disturbance in conjunction with the construction work is part of the plan.
It didn't show that way on the plan, unfortunately.
Yeah, he said it.
So he
did.
said
But
he was
even
gonna
planting
revisit, he said he would
disrupts
revisit it
the
though.
bluff.
Right. Well, he said, we asked him to speak to the owner and just,
Come back with something.
you know, suggest,
Yeah.
tell the owner that, you know, we thought revegetation plan for the bluff might be in his interest at this time of this work,
Sure,
and see what he comes back with.
sure.
I just
Hopefully
wanted,
they will do it. I think it would be helpful.
Every new staircase that I ever saw had the revegetation done, so,
It makes sense.
yeah. Jim, I want to ask you a quick question with regards to the methodology of removing, say, like a staircase like this. Does somebody like Brian Frank weigh in and make recommendations? Oh, that's good. Okay.
I met with Brian and Mike Delalio, who's gonna be on this project for the planning department. So we kind of, you know, put our heads together, and I expressed my thoughts, and I think they'll be, I'm not sure about this particular property, but they make a decision, I guess, whether they want to deal with it administratively and just grant the permit without having to go through the whole ZBA process, or whether it should go through the whole ZBA process. So I think if it meets their concerns and our concerns get put into their concerns, then it can be done administratively. So, this is that next property to the west that this owner, the owner of 20 Hedges Banks also owns. And this has a staircase. This is, you can see how it's considerably out onto the beach now. And it's a relatively, it seems to me, it's a relatively recent bluff revegetation, but you can see how it's even sloughing behind the staircase here.
It's scoured out to those
Right.
pilings.
I don't know if the staircase had anything to do with that, or just coincidence
No,
that that
it's just
part.
a storm event.
Yeah.
You know, the toe isn't, there's no armoring on the toe, so.
And I'm also not sure what kind of fill is going into these revegetation projects.
Usually it's just sand,
Yeah.
and sometimes it's not even, you know, some of these have been just done where they just graded.
Right. Because this looks like, to me, like almost a uniform sort of a bank run sand back here, not the till that you usually see.
Bluffs out there are, there's not a lot of layering and that stuff that could be done.
Is that a part of the beach where people drive
Yeah. there's-
typically? So how do we feel about that landing being so far out on the beach?
Well, this is the next one down to the west, and that's considerably out of the beach. Well, there's plenty of beach, unless
To
it
get
would be a
around it.
really high tide, there would be less. I mean, right now, there seems to be room.
At some point,
But
wasn't
it's
the beach
kind of one thing I
out as
wanted
far as the
to
stairs at the
show the
end?
board.
And then
I'm
it
sure
just
the
was
bluffs
washed
are out there.
away.
This is a
So it's not as though they built the stairway out into the beach originally, it was just scoured out.
They built it to an appropriate place, and
And now it's been taken
there's
away.
erosion involved.
Yeah.
But there's plenty of room to drive out there.
I mean, I did collect another series of pictures of staircases along Hedges Banks. And I'm basically going from Old House Landing Road to the county park to the west, Cedar Point Park to the west.
We asked,
And
I'm sorry, John, we asked people to maintain their revetments, although not many of them do rock revetments in terms of replenishing sand. Would we be out of line asking people if they had the means to put the sand back? I'm just,
put what sand back?
When it gets scoured out.
that got
Bottom of it.
scoured out and left us with a landing, a quarter into the beach area.
Well, we don't own the
That
bluff.
would trigger all kinds of
Not
permit
sure what
applications.
standing we have to
And I'm
ask
not sure what you would
people to do
benefit by it.
something
I'm
on
just-
their property. We don't own the bluff, and we own the beach, but down to the toe of the bluff is their property, as far as I understand it.
But
So,
when we gave the permit, the sand was present, and then it got washed away, and now the landing is on our
Their
beach
sand.
extensively, and I'm saying, can they put the sand back? Does that make sense? And maybe,
no, I don't think that's possible. You've
Okay.
got a bluff that's eroding back,
yeah,
and you're pretty much asking them just to dump sand into an area is just gonna wash away constantly.
Well, the unfortunate thing here, though, is that there's nobody down there that's trying to capture, that's seriously trying to capture the sand. You know, you saw that one slide you had with the singular row of fencing that was just running parallel. That looked like it was more there to prevent access to the bluff. But, you know, if you could get some real accumulation of sand, it may help, it may help on the erosion of those toes.
It may, but if you
When the
notice,
tide's high there isn't a whole lot of beach down here as much as,
I mean, you may get capture of eroding bluff that's captured in the snow fencing, but you're not gonna get drifting beach sand like you do on the ocean beach.
no, not as
So
much, but
You've got a pretty rough
we've done a
stone
lot
beach.
down, on the bay beaches, and you do get an accumulation.
I mean, that could be something we make recommendation to the ZBA about, I would think, on these applications, that snow
Might be
fencing
nice to
be
baseline a property
included.
if someone's willing to participate.
Well, 42 Hedges Banks, which we're giving a permit to, and Bruce Anderson was here last week. And if you recall, they had a snow fence that they proposed removing and eliminating. At first, they were going to rebuild it, but I pointed out it's well out onto the beach now, the stakes, there's no fencing there. And then they just took it off their proposal, and I just, I think they're reinstating it and moving it back to the toe of the bluff, so that might be a
a nice
test.
project to keep an eye on for us.
But I just wanted to show some
Well, John, that's-
staircase.
Yeah, that's gonna be an ongoing issue, John, as the bluffs do erode from storm events and sea level rise.
Right,
How do we manage the location of these staircase landings?
right.
It's a good point.
So this is 60, this staircase is 60 Hedges Banks Road. This is at the extreme western end. This is the one we permitted last time that retroactively, they had
Oh,
built
yeah.
the staircases, but they didn't have a trustee permit. This is it. But also, looking down the beach to the east, you can see the other staircases are similarly pretty far away from the bluff as well.
That one might have been washed away and rebuilt at that juncture right there.
This one?
Could be
This
cracked.
is new.
It is
This
new.
is new. This is just a point of interest, turn around looking back to the west. This is Cedar Point, no revegetation at all. So it's pretty stark when you actually stand there and see the revegetated bluff and then look to the right and see this whole stretch of unvegetated bluff.
But that's actually feeding the beach.
Somewhere.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's also, to the far left of that picture, it looks as though the water has come up quite high, and it's actually hanging over, the top is hanging over the bluff. It's been scoured out, if I'm seeing it correctly.
Common
far
along the
left.
taller
Most
bluffs.
of
That's
it's
really-
scour, the
wow.
bottom scours and everything slopes down.
Right.
I think a lot of this
But
is
that one
sort
looks
of
pretty
erosion,
extreme.
rainfall erosion.
So it's also the shadow makes it look a little
Oh, okay.
more dramatic.
This is at
Interesting.
42, so if you envision Hedges Banks from from west to east, number 60 is at the extreme western end, number 20 is at the extreme eastern end, and 42 is about in the middle. This is 42. These are the stakes of the old snow fence that Bruce Anderson said was going to be rebuilt, and then he was going to remove them, and now he's going to rebuild a snow fence closer to the toe of the bluff in conjunction with his staircase. But I kind of took this picture just to look down the beach at the staircases.
Are those metal or
west.
wood? Are those metal or wood?
Look like
They're
metal.
metal.
So they need to
Metal.
be removed in general.
That's like a plastic mesh
Yeah, a little-
material, kind of like that
Proposing to
orange
remove 'em
stuff
with
that you see, fencing. This is just
It's
black.
It's not approved by any
Yep.
trustees then, 'cause that's old.
I don't know.
It's not
In
an
our
approved
permits,
method of
if
snow
we-
fencing.
No,
If we have, yeah, I don't know if we, actually, I'm not sure if we, well, our permit isn't out yet, so I'll make sure it's in there.
Yeah.
So we're only approving
Wood slats.
Right.
Wood stakes.
Wood stakes, wood slats.
So you can see again, this staircase is looking west from 42 or significantly out onto the beach. And then this is looking east. This staircase here is the association staircase. And this is the association staircase. It's probably one of the oldest staircases along Hedges Banks. This is the landfall subdivision. And this probably was built, concrete footings when the bluff was out about this far, I would imagine. I don't know, but you can see how far back that's,
I'm surprised they were allowed concrete footings.
yeah.
How long ago was that built, John, do you know?
Check the
I don't
file.
know.
And is that a Clorox bottle at the bottom of the stairway?
Buoys.
That's
It's a buoy.
Buoy? All right, I can't see that far away. It looks like a Clorox bottle.
And I
It's
think,
a balloon.
back to where we started again. Oh, well, I showed you these pictures before. So this is looking down towards
Cedar Point.
Cedar Point, right?
Beautiful.
So, anyway, that's just kind of get a picture of what's along Hedges Banks, how far out the staircases are. And,
Good job, John. Good overview.
Thank you very much.
Well, one thing I just wanted to ask the board is, there's probably between 14 and 16 staircases along Hedges Banks now, and probably more to come. And it's, they're all on the beach, and they're on the beach a considerable way. And I'm not sure we shouldn't be thinking about charging something for that. And the private use of public land, even a modest fee or something like that. I think that there may be some charges associated with staircases on other beaches. Not sure about that. But if there are, I wonder if we should think about some consistent policy of,
Like a dock fee.
like,
Something to consider.
Let's kick it around.
Anything else? All right, move on to payment of the bills. Matthew Kirsten Cooley, $662.50 for Zweig legal fees. Herzog, Fowler, and Schaefer, $2,150 for accounting fees. TLS Printing, Shellfish tags, 20,000 tags. $3,564.40. Do I have a motion to pay the bills?
I'll make a motion to pay.
I will
Second?
second it.
All in favor?
Aye.
Okay, we have minutes, November 16th. I think they just went out today.
Yeah, so I started to read them, but I will have more of. Next meeting.
Make a motion that we table them till our next meeting.
Okay,
Give us an
Second.
opportunity to review them.
Second.
all in favor?
Aye.
All right, and lastly, report of the clerk. As you recall, we put the split rail fencing up down at 3 Mile Harbor. Okay, this is what the beach looks like since the dredging. But what's happening is, if you look, the rails are being removed. And
It burned.
I don't know if they're being burned or
Used on private fences.
repurposed.
Was this a storm tide, or is this happening every day?
That was on Friday.
That's a storm tide.
It was a storm tide.
That occurred on
A little
Friday.
abnormal.
So they're being removed?
And screw them.
Yeah, but during towards the end of the season, I was told that very often at high tide, there's very little beach on the other side of this split rail fence. So we may, I don't know if we want to remove them now and reconsider where we place them next year.
The parking lot's over here.
Yes.
I know one of the discussions was to partition running kind of more north and south to channel the access. Was this a secondary section that you put in?
This was blocking it off like this here. See how that is?
Right,
Okay, so that kind of funneled the vehicles to the center.
correct.
And then this created a border where the kids could be on the other side.
Where they go bathing,
Right.
I see,
And then we left an opening here for foot access.
for pedestrian access, okay.
Jim was down there with me when we walked through this. So, do we want to leave them there for now or take them out? That's really my question.
Well, I can't really
Not much
tell
left.
from your photos. I'll run by there and look at it.
Maybe if you want to take the rest of the rails out, we can put them in the.
Well, the reason I know about this is because a car pulled in here, and as they were backing out, they didn't realize the fence post was there because there's no
There's no
rails. And it
Is this
went
them?
right down the side of their vehicle.
Okay.
Maybe the person that took the rails, if they're watching, give us your address, we'll bring the rest there. This way we can get the resentment over with.
And present the proper bill.
Nice.
Well, maybe then they should be taken
Did you
out
see it?
lest another car do the same thing. It's a hazard. I mean, now that we know that that's a
It's
possibility.
called, like, if that was a baby behind your car, whose fault would it be that you ran the baby over? The baby for being there, you not being able to drive.
It's interesting that the dredging changed the dynamic of the beach there so
Yeah.
greatly.
We've had a couple of really high tides, yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, but-
Becoming more the norm, though, I must say. We're
Yeah.
seeing a lot of bulkhead breaches and other things.
Over the
in
summer, I know, I spoke to a number of moms, and they were very happy with the fact that the split rail was there protecting, the little ones. As far as high tide was concerned, there was still room, not obviously not
Most
as
of the
much as
time.
low tide, but, so I think it worked well, but I think the dynamics have changed, probably due to the storms and the
Yeah, I think we need to
dredging.
keep an eye on it.
Because really, when you look at this, there's no beach. Forget about our little area here.
Yeah.
This is all,
Yeah, the whole thing is
it's
overwashed.
underwater.
I mean, these could have,
Somebody
is
will
this
put
a
it on
brand
a
new
boat.
fence that was
Yes.
this?
It was put up over the summer.
No, it's-
Right, because I remember when Lauren Bolger came in
has
to
a
ask
discussion
about this,
about
right? Because they look old. I mean, how do these come
How
out by
fast
themselves?
is the
They
fence
don't.
supposed to
They
move?
don't, no, they were,
Exactly. So it becomes fireplace material or something.
Or
Or-
fixture fence.
Okay, fixture fence. And then in between here, obviously, there are posts.
They're missing also.
Whatever we do, we're gonna have to screw them in,
Yeah, from now on.
from now
yeah.
on.
Yep, thank you.
All right, anybody have anything they want to add?
Hope everyone had a wonderful Thanksgiving. Peaceful.
Okay. Anyone want to make a motion to adjourn?
Second?
All in favor?
Aye.
Okay, thank you, everybody.
Thank you.